Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Hello and welcome to episode 162 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this episode is being brought to you by our latest Patreon supporter, David Lockhart. You too can be just like David and help support the show. Simply go to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from as little as $1 per month. Your contributions help with our production and hosting costs and are greatly appreciated by all the team. And of course, everybody who signs up gets a free On the Bench sticker. And hello and welcome to the show. And in the studio, I've got Ian.
G'day, Dave.
And that's it.
And g'day, listeners.
We're sans Julian, who
Yes.
is over in Japan having a wow of a time.
By the sounds of it, yes, he is.
Yeah, and we were supposed to have another special guest filling in for hosting, but unfortunately he's come down with COVID, so it's just you and I.
Just us two, mate.
It's just like the old days, remember?
It is,
the
yes.
first 10 episodes of just you and me.
Just me. Yeah, just us two.
At that little broom closet of a room we used to...
Yes.
And we used to record in an evening.
Yes,
You'd
that's
come
right.
over for dinner and Michelle would cook a nice schnitzel.
Yep. Yeah, the old days. Kind of miss the old days.
Yeah, no, what, just you and me?
No, just the old days. Just miss the old days.
And of course, somewhere along the line, Julian sort of rolled up around episode 10 or 11 and he just kept coming back.
Yeah, that's it. He stayed for the long run.
Jeez, they were the days, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's nearly 7 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We've been going for quite some time. Jeez.
Very good, isn't it?
So what you been doing, mate?
Nothing on the bench. Absolutely nothing. I've just got no motivation at the moment.
Yeah.
Not sure why. Just no motivation.
Yeah.
Might be because we're between seasons.
Yeah, possibly.
I have been buying.
Ooh, what have you bought?
Picked myself up the HK Models B25 Mitchell with the glazed nose in 48 scale. It's a nice looking kit.
Yep.
And picked up the Tamiya 32nd scale P51D.
Oh, so you're moving into 32nd scale, big scale.
Just some bigger stuff that I reckon is good quality.
Yep.
So, yes, that's what I've been purchasing.
So is that because your eyes are getting too bad now?
I think so. Yeah, I think because my eyes are slowly deteriorating. Better start looking at things with a larger scale.
So when are you going to start on the bomber? Or is it just going to sit in the stash?
I'll probably sit in the stash for the next 20 years. With the rest of them.
Well, I've been slowly working my way through that Mac kit for the Vostok rocket. And just before we started the show, I sort of showed Ian some of the boosters on the side. I got some challenges with them.
Do you ever?
And don't quite know how I'm going to sort of solve the problem, but... and I've got 4 of them, so it's not just doing one. You've got to do it 4 times.
Yeah, I'll be probably sprue going those.
Yeah. We'll get some emails about sprue goo later on.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll just fill it with cardstock and see how I go.
Yeah.
Although, it'd be tempting to print them in 3D if I could figure out how to do that.
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Yeah, I know, but I haven't even cracked open my printer yet. Because, well, here's the thing. I'm struggling whether I should put it in the garage or whether I should put it in my build room. And I haven't sort of landed yet. I'm leaning more towards setting it up in my build room and doing it there.
Yep. Well, you got better temperature control indoors than you do out.
Well,
out
there's
the garage.
that side of it, but then I've got the worry of protecting it in case there's going to be a spill or something like that, so I don't have all the stuff going everywhere. So,
you just put down some mats or something.
I don't know. I'm still sort of, So I'll figure that. So anyway, so I got frustrated with the Mac with the Vostok build, so I cracked open a little Bren kit that I had.
Oh, little Bren gun kit, yeah.
And it's a Hermes rocket, which is I think it's the world's first surface-to-air missile, which was the Germans started developing it, and then the Yanks pinched it during Operation Paperclip. And, started playing with it. So this is a nice little 70-second scale sort of kit that's it's very refreshing. Working with the Mac kit.
Yeah, sometimes you need something to just brush your teeth with. Putting it plain and simply.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I love because Russian rockets are very hard to come by. In plastic, and as you know, these Mac kits were the only sort of ones that I could find available without going down the 3D route. So I'm keen to sort of push it, but it's not going to be the short, quick build that I was anticipating.
No.
It's not going to make it for Model Expo, put it that way.
No. You got a few more months worth of work on that thing.
It's going to be one of those things where you do a little bit, put it aside, come back, do a little bit more, put it aside, do a little bit more, come back, put it aside. Just slowly catchy monkey.
Yep. That's the best way of tackling or something like that. Otherwise, you're liable just to throw it against the wall.
Yeah, I know. Anyway. All right. Let's have a very quick break and have a word from our sponsor, and then we might come back and have a look at some letters from people.
Sounds like a plan.
How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Back very shortly.
Hi, I'm Scott, the creator and owner of the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's largest manufacturer of hobby paints. Our premium airbrush-ready acrylic lacquer paints are designed specifically for use on plastics, with a comprehensive range covering all popular modelling subjects including military, aircraft, rail, auto, sci-fi and more. And not only that, but we also have a wide selection of essential hobby tools and now, infinite colour, and new range of water-based paints for miniatures. So to check out our range and to find your closest retailer, please visit our website at scalemodeler.com.au. So when quality matters, choose SMS Paints.
Okay, we've got quite a few emails that have come in, which has been really fantastic to see. I've got to try and... Here we go. Alan Gills is the first one to write in. It says, hello, benches. I have to admit, it's always hilarious to hear Dave mangle his words, but as a proud Canadian, I feel compelled to try and stop the butchering of the name of one of the most historically significant Canadian aircraft, the Norseman. I was driving and listening to episode 161 when I heard Dave pronounce it, and the resulting wince nearly sent me off the road. So, Dave, I'm going to try and give you the phonetic guide to the Canadian pronunciation of the company name. It is Nordian.
Nordian.
Not Norseman. There you go.
No, not Nordian.
Nordian is the manufacturer of the Norseman. Beg your
correct.
pardon. So, as it happens, Nordian is a Dutch name. There you go, Ian.
Yep.
So I hereby charge Ian with a solemn duty of keeping Dave on track with this one. Some fun facts about Richard Nordian and his airplane. He was born in Holland and worked for Sopwith, Fokker and Belkia and Pitcairn before starting Nordian Aircraft in Montreal in 1993. The Norseman...
33, beg
your pardon. The Norseman was essentially the first... purpose-built bush airplane. The famous band leader Glenn Miller disappeared while flying as a passenger in a Norseman. The Norseman was produced from 1935 until 1959. That's a long production run.
Yeah.
There are apparently still 50 of them around, and some of them are working out of North America, flying out of North America even today, and who knows how many more around the world. Keep up the great work. Love the show. That's Alan from Nova Scotia in Canada.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah. Let's have a look. No, not that one. Here we go. No, not that one.
You'll find one.
Sorry.
It's got to do with us. Here we go.
Our good mate Ethan writes in, g'day benches. I think I'm finally getting the accent right on that one. And you are indeed, Ethan.
Yes.
I wanted to send you guys some feedback on another great episode. This is referring back to our assemblers versus builders.
Last episode, yes.
Yeah. First, regarding the topic of builders versus assemblers, I agree wholeheartedly that making those kinds of disparaging remarks about someone's build only hurts the hobby and drives folks away. Mm-hmm. I've often heard those types of remarks made about science fiction models, Gundam in particular. I recall we had a bit of a debate about whether the hobby was dying on IPMS San Diego Facebook page a few years ago. Someone posted a picture of a hobby store in Europe with a good stock, and someone commented that you don't see that much here anymore because, wait for it, the hobby is dying. I pointed out that I see lots of stores with huge stocks of Gundam and other anime-related model kits, and they sell. The person said that they looked at Gundams as being equivalent to Legos. Ooh. I responded by pointing out just how complex Gundam builds can be, including the pictures of the model I was working off at the time, to which there was no response. The points I want to make are, however, that the hobby is not dying, it's just changing in terms of what people build, and it always has. Gatekeeping will only cause a hobby to fragment and drive people away from the established model building groups and does nobody any good. Secondly, regarding the display of swastika on models, I have a few things to say. I had relatives who died in the Holocaust, so my personal choice these days is not to build things that display a swastika. The swastika to me is not a symbol of Germany in World War II, but is also of a serial symbol of the horrendous pain, suffering and evil that people who followed it committed upon the world, and in particular my own people. That said, however, that is my choice for my builds, and I do not think it should be prohibited or illegal to do so. I often go to model contests and appreciate the incredible artistry and work that goes into some extraordinary World War II German subjects. I think for me, how I react to such a subject depends on whether it seems that the modeler is building it as a documentary or glorifying it. Most model builds I have seen are doing the former, and these I can appreciate. I have, however, seen some which do the latter, glorifying Nazis, and those I cannot appreciate, to say the least. For example, we had one member of our club who used to build Gundams and other sci-fi subjects in full Nazi livery. They always gave me the creeps, and in a very visceral way, because they always gave me the impression that the builder was glorifying the Nazis. Subsequent conversations with the builder confirmed my suspicions, and I was always very uncomfortable when the builder brought his models to the club as a result. Last, and as a self-proclaimed aficionado of fried chicken, I heartily approve of Julian's plans for South Korea. That's all the best, Ethan.
Thank you, Ethan. That's very well written.
It was. And, you know, and it's funny, we've got quite a bit of mail in on this subject, and talking about builders versus assemblers, and I do agree with what Ethan has said 100%. I still believe that if it's done as a documentary or representing something that actually happened in the past, it's fine. But it's when you sort of, you know, see people roll up to a model expo and they're even wearing sort of German sort of stuff. That's kind of
kind of pushing the envelope a little bit at times.
Yeah, it certainly is for me. So
they're usually the people that really have not much idea what really went down.
Yeah, exactly right. We've got some news from our good friends over in South Australia. Jamie Stokes writes in, hi Dave and the team, after much searching and inspecting of venues, the South Australian Model Expo has secured a new venue for our 40th Expo.
Oh, well done, guys.
It's going to be held at the John Dunning Centre, Prince Alfred College in Decaturville. Decaturville
Terrace.
Yes. Which is in Adelaide.
Kent Terrace, Adelaide, yes.
It's going to be held on the 6th and 8th of October. Excellent work by the club president and expo director, as 28 venues had to be examined before one was found that ticked as many boxes as possible. Now, we were planning on going to the South Australian one, but unfortunately it clashes with our trip to New Zealand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know.
Sorry, guys.
No, well, that's all right. I've already reached out to Jamie and said that we'll have somebody on from the club to perhaps talk about it in future episodes.
Yep, sounds good.
But great little show over there. So if you're living in South Australia or indeed Victoria or Western Australia, get in the car, get over there, and that's going to be in October the 6th and 8th.
It's a quick drive from Perth. If you've got a spare 12 hours plus.
So more on that show as we move forward and get closer to the date. Hi, Dave, Ian and Julian. I had a laugh when you were talking to Will about the Musaru Cup and about it being a bit of fun that some had taken a bit serious. During the build, some of the competitors showed progress shots, and during that time I commented on Ian's build and told him he had this in the bag. Well,
no,
Will jumped me and said basically Ian wasn't the only competitor. So I stirred him up a bit with Ian and there's being a bit of Australian sort of slang and ribbing, and that makes him untouchable, which set Will off yet again. I found it hilarious, so I had to let Will know that I was only taking the piss. As far as I'm concerned, they are all winners. They were all great builds, and Will's weathering was on yet another level.
That was amazing, isn't it?
P.S. However, Ian was robbed.
Peter. I went to the well-deserved win.
Oh, it did. Andrew Armstrong writes in, sorry about the rambling email, Dave. It's a very late train ride home from New York City. Feel free to summarise if you want to talk about it in the show. It's not a large email at all, Andrew. No. So he writes in, hi, gents, just finished episode 161. Great episode as always. When you guys were discussing the quality of aftermarket instructions, it made me think of Glenn Hoover Models. He's a retired systems engineer and he rewrites kit instructions so they make more sense, and the new instructions include many aftermarket items as well. It looks like he has around 40 to 50 models on his site. I guess it's not helpful if he doesn't have a set for what you're building, but it's certainly worth a look.
I've never heard of it.
Oh, I've looked at it and it's awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Andrew goes on to say, I guess this also ties into your interesting discussion with Will about assemblers versus builders. Some might say a real builder would figure it out for themselves. I see it as a good learning tool. I was completely overwhelmed by my 1/350 scale Iwo Jima, which is a great kit. I've got that moustache, actually. I knew I wasn't building to the best way by following the kit instructions, but I didn't know what to do, so I just stopped working on it. I found Glenn Hoover's site while looking for inspiration on the internet and was amazed to see he had instructions for the Iwo Jima. I bought the book and really enjoyed it. It shows a systematic way of thinking about the build that helped me greatly. I picked up Tamiya's P38F/G at the Old Dominion Open Show and plan to purchase his instructions for that build as well. I think it will also help me move in the right direction. P.S. I hope Julian has a good time in Japan and brings back Ian lots of Godzilla stuff. Looking forward to the next expo. Andrew Armstrong from Centerport, New York.
Yeah, awesome.
And for anybody who wants to go and check out Glenn Hoover Models, it's all the W's and then Glenn Hoover Models, one word, .com. That's GLENNHOOVERMODELS.com. And I've got to say, I went and had a look and I was quite impressed. And Glenn seems like somebody we need to perhaps get on and have a chat on the show. And he's done a whole heap of, rewriting of instructions, and it's almost like a how-to, his books. And, for example, he's done the Academy 1/350 scale USS Oliver Hazard Perry class. The instruction book is 243 pages with 1,268 steps, plus 185 pictures or figures, I'm assuming. So, wow. And that's all for about, I think it's, if you download the PDF, I think it's about $5 or something, or $8, there you go.
$9,
so,
yeah. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty reasonable, isn't it?
I know. And
I'll check it out.
I'll certainly will have to as well. I mean, I think it's a great idea that somebody's sort of, doing that. And, the range...
And off their own bat, too.
Well, the range of stuff he's got, the Trumpeter F-106 Delta Dart, He's got the Edward A4EF Skyhawk in 48 scale, the B1B Lancer, the Revell 48 scale kit. He does the Fletcher. Got a Phantom in there, the Tamiya one, the Phantom 2, the F4B. No armour, all mainly aircraft and a couple of ships as well. So, but he's got a whole heap of stuff that's also scheduled that he's going to be building. At least another, quick count there, 15 kits that he's on ready to go there. And he's also got free to download a US Navy P6 catapult in 1/32 scale.
Oh,
he's got
very
the 3D
cool.
files for that. So go check that out. GlennHooverModels.com. And I said we need to reach out and perhaps get him on the show. Looks
Thanks for that, Andrew.
pretty interesting. Jamie Stokes writes in, hello Dave, Ian and Julian. Interesting to hear your discussion on the swastika rules for entries into Melbourne Expo. We're facing a similar law banning Nazi symbology due to neo-Nazi groups here in South Australia, and it's likely Australia-wide.
Yeah.
The adoption of the stance historically accurate and photographic evidence would be a clause required under the exemption of historical education, which is a lot of state legislation is allowing people to have swastikas shown if it is for historical education.
Yes.
If this wasn't set as an entry requirement, then any organisers of model displays would face the choice of either running the risk of fines or actually banning every model kit that had a swastika, including kill markings on Allied vehicles. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
No. The banning of footy teams or classes of vehicles because we don't like them isn't a parliamentary law that modelers have to respond. It does create concerns, confusion in the modelling community as a whole, and our own club, South Australian Plastic Model Association, submitted a letter to our parliament asking for an exemption to be written into the law for historical education and artistic, so we could depict the history of these subjects. That's from Jamie Stokes, who's the president.
Wonder if they got a reply yet. But then again, if there's a government that can take 2 years.
I don't know. Governments
Governments aren't quick to get back to you.
No.
Unless it's in their favour.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, jeez. I'm going to struggle with your name, Chris.
Christoph, what Stala?
There you go.
I think. I probably butchered it. Sorry, Christoph.
Hey, just listening to episode 157. I'm not Australian, but I will try to answer something.
Go for it.
Ian just said that he would like to know how to produce PE parts for yourself. So the thing is that Plasmos videos, I pretty much cover everything. But what you have to know that producing PE is pretty much the same process like producing your own PCBs for electronic projects.
Correct. Yes.
So if you know someone who's into electronics and made her own PCB, just ask them. As for chemicals you need in this process, again, you have to go to the store where you can buy electronics parts like capacitors and resistors, etc. They have either what you need, which is acid for etching, and develop a solution for developing the graphics on the brass, or they will at least know where you need to get that stuff.
Yep.
If you'd like to know the whole process, then write me a short email and I'll try to make it step-by-step tutorial for it. It's not really that complicated, but there are a couple of steps that you have to do and a couple of different techniques. For example, Plasmo is using his spray, which I'm not a fan of, and you can use this a special foil that you can buy for a couple of bucks at AliExpress. The most critical thing you need is a really good print. Negative or positive, depends on what you are trying to do with your brass sheet. And I mean a really, really good print. I go every time to a professional printing company and let them print on the foil for me. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going too deep, but I'll just write the email so that let you guys know that what's out there. There you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I might sling Christoph an email later this week.
All right, I'll save that email so that we can actually send that out.
Yeah.
Dave Waples writes in, my friend Zukas of Zukas Studios in Taiwan has showed off his new Ali Burke
Chiblee kit.
Chiblee kit at the
Moson.
Moson show in Hungary. This shows the mast with photo etch, but he's done the mast set completely in 3D printed resin. Love this guy's work. He keeps stepping up his game with each release.
It's a Chiblee, all right.
Yeah, it is. But that's, you know what? Oh, I'm just going to say this. The guys from Taiwan and Korea know how to do water.
Oh, do they ever?
With ships. It just looks absolutely gorgeous and divine. So I might actually share them to our on the bench page, because those pictures are absolutely awesome.
They're pretty cool, don't they?
And I really like the one of the dry dock scene where you've got the submarine and you got the Harley Burke in dry dock and the other one sort of sitting in
I like the one with the dolphins.
All right, so I'll definitely hang on to those two. John Lees writes in. There you go. From Eglin, Illinois, which is a suburb west of Chicago. Greeting benches. I've been listening to your podcast and catching up on past episodes. I must say that just about every episode has something of value hidden away in the discussions and not necessarily in the main topic. An excellent business plan to promote complete episode reviews. I've spent up to 11 hours a day working on the bench for a living. Oh, wow. And have much time to listen to books and CDs and now podcasts. Your show has been a true godsend and has done much to get me back into modelling regularly. Well, that's good to hear, mate. Now pushing my late 60s, I was destined to be a modeller from the start due to the 3 scrapbooks of my father's service in the Second World War. What better way to inspire a youngster than the photos of the real things? And despite having built just about every genre of kits, I'd have to admit that still being drawn to aircraft. So some specific comments and questions, if I may. Julian, I went to the recent Adepticon convention, and or should I say Madhouse, since it's been located right here in the Greater Chicago area. I was present at the start of the D&D phenomenon back in the mid-70s at a local war game convention held in Milwaukee, and what was known as the Horticultural Hall. There, Gary Gygax first began the role at his madness, which was to grow even bigger convention sites, including the one time at the Playboy Club in Wisconsin. Anyhow, this latest wave of gaming has truly hit tsunami level, and the amount of revenue it must generate would make historical hobbyists grin with envy. Talk about your proverbial elbows and arseholes. The place was packed, and despite being held at a convention centre, the parking was overwhelmed, requiring off-site parking with quite a hike to get back in. An event to be seen for sure, but having been there and done that, I will pass future mosh pits.
Yeah, it sounds like it would have been a huge thing, yeah.
To Ian, knowing you love P40s, what is your take on the AM Tech P40E? Keeper or better to move on?
Honestly, I've got one, and I've been trying to get rid of it. Because, look, it's for its age, it wasn't too bad, but why not just get the Hasegawa one?
Yeah. Another quick question based on recent comments during podcasts for any of you. I've got a copy of the Hasegawa 148 P38H with specific markings for the 457th Fighter Group, which flew in support of my dad's unit. So how bad are the decals, and is the kit worth building it in view of Tamiya's Lightning? Well, I'd say straight away, if you get the choice, I always go for Tamiya in the first place.
Yeah, I would go with Tamiya. The Hasegawa one's a bit of a challenge to build. Hasegawa decals can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
In my thing, it's usually best just to give one a test. If it's no good, go aftermarket.
Yeah, 100%.
But for the kit itself, look, I had a couple of Hasegawa P38s and sold them off as soon as Tamiya bought theirs on.
There you go. And as for aftermarket decals, look, just have a hunt around, try all the different decal places, and
there are so many.
Yeah, if you're struggling, just post it on our on your bench Facebook page, and just pose a question there.
Someone will know.
They will. And it continues on, Dave. Amazing podcast you've put together. With all the rest, will surely be compared with. The kit knowledge is amazing and helps with my modelling choices and to contribute to my anemic bank account. That being said, I'm now facing the reality of not enough time to build the stash and need to make some serious choices.
I know that feeling.
And he also gives us a picture, because his father, he mentioned before, his father actually flew with the 3rd Attack Group, 13th Squadron, the Grim Reapers. And he was
really?
He was a squadron navigator and arrived in theatre right after the Battle of the Bismarck Sea. He had 74 combat missions, including Rabaul, Cape Gloucester, Wewak, and Western Dutch New Guinea. His scrapbook also includes pictures of the 1940s Sydney.
Ooh.
And while the 345th Bomber Group gets all the rightful attention with its parrots, dragons and bats, give me the white or something skull on a B-25/D nose anytime. And there's a picture of, I'm assuming it's his father's aircraft.
Yeah, that's an early Mitchell.
Yeah.
It's a CD, the Hot Horse, glazed nose. It's been painted over with a big skull at the front with, looks like 450s.
50 cal sticking out the front.
Sticking out the front glazing. Yeah. A real strafer.
I might
Love
just
that.
repost that picture because that is
cool.
actually awesome, yeah. That's awesome. Thanks very much for that. That's
that is
terrific.
An awesome email. Thank you.
Right. Our good friend D writes in.
D.
Hi guys, just a couple of comments regarding the latest episode about assemblers versus builders. As a member of the LGBTI community, I, as many others, have been plagued by trolls who always desire to express their opinions by shouting over any of your posts by stressing your view is always wrong, therefore theirs is always correct and better. My remedy is to ignore them. I know this is not easy and it takes time, but I've come to realise if these people keep building behind the mask of the internet to show their weaknesses by a combination of ignorance and rudeness. My other question refers to sprue goo. If it is only a mixture of cement and plastic and the plastic melts the glue, why doesn't the model parts melts when they're cemented? Maybe I'm missing something. Cheers from D.
Well, probably would have been a better question for Will, but because he's right to know of those things. But I presume that once you add the plastic to it, it'll take a lot of the bite out of it, and it does bite a bit to the plastic. Otherwise, it'll fall out.
Yep, that's right. Well, isn't that the whole point? Because the glue actually does melt the plastic anyway.
Yeah.
When you're gluing it, that's the whole process of the particular glue.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is to melt it so that when it dries, it's sort of like welding, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like a primitive form of plastic welding.
Yeah, indeed. Cool.
Thanks, D.
That is about it, I think. One very quick one. Got a quick email from Tony from Horizon Models. He writes, "Hi Dave, hope this email finds you well. Hopefully this email reaches you before today's recording," which it has. So we'll be able to announce it. So March the 15th, 2023 marks the 50th year of the last manned Mercury spaceflight with Gordon Cooper Jr.'s historic flight, which lasted over 38 hours and orbited the Earth 22 times. To commemorate the last manned flight of the Mercury program for the entire month of May 2023, Horizon Models will be offering the following deals. Mercury Atlas and Mercury Redstone 2 kits combo for just $60 US.
Jeez, that's good.
Or a Mercury Atlas and Mercury Spacecraft twin pack and Mercury Redstone, so 3 kit combo for just $80. Pricing includes international shipping to most countries but does not include customs fees, taxes and import duties, etc. As Cooper's flight was the final flight of the Mercury program, this will be the last time Horizon Models will be able to offer this very low pricing on our range of kits. So the offer expires on 31st of May. So that's Horizon Models, so www.horizon-models.com, or just type in Horizon Models into Google and it'll take you there. Tony's a really good friend of ours.
Yep.
He produces some fantastic real space kits in 1/72nd scale. I've built about 4 of them now. I'm my 5th build with one of them. In fact, I've built closer to 7, including little capsules. They're great kits, and there's nothing else out there in this scale for real space. So if you're looking for a really great fun kit just to have a bit of a breather, check these kits out. They're fantastic. So there you go.
No worries.
So let's have a quick break, and we'll come back and see what the Falcon has to say. Back very shortly.
Hey everyone, it's Chris at Inside the Armour Publications. I'd like to tell you about what I've got going on at ITA pubs right now. First, I've got a huge restock from Tetra models, including the Coyote TSV, Jackal 2 and M1278 Heavy Guns Carrier PE sets. The Akagi PE set for the 1700 Hasegawa kit is back in stock. I've got new stuff coming from Wingsy kits, including a restock of their ever popular BF109s. And also I've still got plenty of copies of Models for Ukraine Volume 2. Please do buy that if you would like to help with humanitarian aid for Ukraine. In addition, I've also got the F4, 148 and 172nd decal sets for 13th TFS at Udon Air Force Base in the late 60s, which are fantastic for your 172nd or 148 Phantoms. So head on over to InsideTheArmour.com or check out ITA discounts on eBay to find out more about these great products and how you can get your hands on them.
Okay, and welcome back, and now we'll see what the Falcon has to say in regards to some new kits. But before he does, I've got a very quick announcement.
Yes.
There's Lincoln Wright has written in and says that there is a new book, Lunar Combat.
Yes. We're waiting for this one to come out.
We have too. So Lunar Combat Volume 2, and that's available, obviously, if you go to Lincoln's page and have a look at that stuff, and you can pre-order it.
If it's anything like his last book, it's going to be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, so simply go to paintonplastic.com and you'll be able to find the links there. So that's awesome news.
They're well worth what we pay for them.
Oh, they certainly
brilliant
are.
books.
Right, on to the Falcon. The Falcon writes, "Hi, Dave, Ian, and whoever is standing in for Julian."
Which is nobody.
Nobody. Let's start off with aircraft news. And firstly, Clearprop have announced finally the release of their 72nd scale kit of the MiG-23 Flogger G. Well, actually, there's 3 kits. There's the MiG-23 MLA, the MiG-23 MLA E2, and the MiG-23 ML/MLA, with apparently more boxings to come. Airfix are to release their 72nd scale TSR-2, but only if you live in Japan. The release is a Beaver Corporation exclusive. That Julian has the luck of the devil. How incredible is it that the kit will be released when he's in Japan? He will no doubt pick up 2 or 3 kits.
Yeah.
DBMK have shown CAD renders of the cockpit of their forthcoming de Havilland Hornet. It's looking very detailed. Apparently the throttle quadrant will be supplied as a 3D printed part. And that's something we're seeing slowly creeping in with
model manufacturers.
Before you'd get resin parts added in, and now it's sort of moving towards 3D printed parts.
Well, they are still resin.
Well, yes, but it's 3D printed rather than
sculpted.
A sculpted pour.
Yep.
So, just interesting the way the hobby sort of changing very slightly.
Evolving.
Yes. Zvezda will be adding a 48 scale Yaklov Yak 9T to their lineup. So far, just a box art and decal sheet have been seen, but the earlier Yak 9D was very nice, and I don't expect this to be any different. The rumour was correct. RS Models are indeed going to be releasing a 48 scale kit of the Bristol Bulldog Mark II and Mark IIA.
Oh, very cool.
That'd be nice in 48 scale.
Yeah, I don't mind the old British silver wings.
No. The sort of interwar period was certainly very interesting and exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can sum diorama possibilities with these kits.
Oh, I think he means I can see some diorama
I think he
possibilities.
means I can see some diorama possibilities with these kits. Douglas Bader famously flew the Bulldog in his early years with the RAF. He was flying one when he had his accident, so you could do something there. Just can't help think it would also be a great opportunity for people looking to do their first figure conversion. Just snip the legs off and you'll be good to go. Is that too soon?
Yeah.
Or perhaps in poor taste.
Falcon.
Ammo by MiG have shown the sprues for their 48 scale MiG-17F/LIM-5 Shenyang J5. Modelers will be overjoyed to hear that Kinetic, who tooled the kit, resisted the temptation to include an engine and removable tail. MiG-17 fans who struggled getting the Hobby Boss MiG-17 to fit together will be letting out a sigh of relief. The release is expected in May or June 2023. Meng have just announced a 48 scale kit of the Chengdu J20 Mighty Dragon. CAD renders show positional control surfaces, a boarding ladder, optional position refueling probe, open or closed jet nozzles, missiles, and full-length air intakes, said to be available sometime in 2023. RS models are releasing or re-releasing 2 aircraft kits in May. First off is a double boxing, i.e. 2 kits in 1 box, of the 72nd scale ZIL Z-X, Z8, I should say. No, Z13, beg your pardon. Previously released as a single kit, this one allows you to model the single and twin seat versions with 4 decal options. The 72nd scale Lior et Oliver LEOC30 Auto Gyro makes a return. Seems to be a straight re-release with 4 marking options. This one got past me. Pilot Republics are presently working on a 48 scale.
Oh, sorry, Dave, you mean Pilot Replicas?
I beg your pardon. Pilot Replicas are presently working on a 48 scale Saab B-18 bomber.
Oh,
That's an unusual kit.
it is, yes.
Infinity Models 32nd scale Archie D3A1 Val has been released.
It has, yes.
People who have the kit in their hands are saying that the kit looks sharper than it appeared in the photographs and is a marked improvement on previous releases. I'm afraid that is where the good news ends. Infinity are pulling the plug.
Oh,
Producing injection kits is proving to be too much work for the small team and sales have been disappointing. There is a small chance they may finish the 32nd scale Nakajima B5N2 Kate, but I wouldn't get your hopes up.
Oh,
So, folks, you've heard it first here on the bench. If you could get your hands on some of these kits, I'd be doing so before they become rare as hen's teeth, much like the Wingnut Wings kits.
yes. We'll be paying a
premium price.
correct for something on eBay, yes.
To naval news. Didn't think I would have anything for naval news, but Micromere have come to the rescue by announcing a 35th scale of Ukraine's maritime drone, the USV. There you go.
Yeah, I saw that advertised a couple of days ago.
Military vehicles. TACOM have announced a family of 3 135th scale Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer kits with full interiors.
Yeah.
There'll be a Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer early production, a Hetzer mid-production, and I'll let you guess what the last one's going to be. Late production, perhaps? TACOM have shown CAD renders showing the kit and the interior is packed with detail. It'd be a waste if you can't see too much of it through the hatches, though.
I don't know. Those hatches are pretty big and it's a small interior, so you're probably able to see a fair bit.
If you are disappointed to hear that TACOM's Hetzer is 35th scale and not 72nd scale, then you'll be very happy to hear that Vespid models are doing next. They are in fact doing a 72nd scale Jagdpanzer 38 late production version. Pictures of the kit contents show the usual professional Vespid job, and the kit comes with a metal barrel.
Not tiny, wouldn't it?
It would be. Not done with Vespid yet. They have announced their very first 35th scale kit. It's going to be an Eagle 4 German utility vehicle 2011 production. They were showing sprues and a built-up test shot. Parts looked sharp and it seemed like the kit fits together. possible downside with the rubber tyres, but you can't have everything. I Love Kits are starting to release some of the new kits listed in their 2023 catalogue. First up is a 1/35 scale M53 155mm self-propelled gun. Some people online saying the box art shows an odd hybrid of the M53 gun and the M55 howitzer, with barrel length midway between the two. Wouldn't worry too much. I doubt the box art is a true indication of what you will get in the box. It will be an M53. Less controversial was the box art of the M48A5 main battle tank. Barrel length looked completely normal. No problems there. Anyway, both kits will be out in May. And, folks, that's all there is from the Falcon. Cheerio.
Thank you, Falcon.
Well, there you go. Lots of new stuff. Have you got any new items that you can think of?
No, you've already covered them.
Oh, terrific. There we go. Wonderful. All right. Well, coming up next, we have got a sensational chat we're having with Paul Budzik.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
He's
been watching his videos for many, many years.
And his dulcet tones as he sort of talks you through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's...
It's a very zen experience.
Well, how about let's get right into it and have a chat with Paul.
Sounds good.
Whether you build aircraft, armour, ships, science fiction, cars or figures, the Fine Scale Modeller magazine provides the how-to information you need to take your modelling to the next level. In each issue of Fine Scale Modeller, you'll find clear how-to features on model assembly and finishing written by experts, reviews of the hottest model kits and products, tips and techniques for assembling, painting and finishing, as well as inspiring photos of readers' models. To find out how you can get your copy of Fine Scale Modeller, go to www.finescale.com. Well, now it gives me great pleasure to introduce perhaps one of the doyens of the modelling world and his lovely dulcet tones, Paul Budzik. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Oh, hi. Nice to be here.
Paul, you are legendary with the videos that you produce, and I don't think that there is a modeller anywhere around the world who, if they haven't heard of you, they certainly have seen you or listened to your dulcet tones on one of the many hundreds of videos that you've produced.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm still not used to having my voice characterized in that way. I guess it's okay.
So tell me, for the viewers who perhaps, or listeners I should say, who perhaps haven't heard of you, who is Paul Budzik?
Well, I just a little kid that started out always fascinated by, I don't know, as far back as I can remember, probably before elementary school. I think my dad did a lot of traditional solid modeling and balsa type things when he was young. And when plastics came on, which was, I was born in 1951, so he thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He didn't have to carve wood. Everything was just, and half the time the colors were okay with him. He'd paint a little bit here and there. So the house got filled up with this stuff, and it was just fascinating for me. So it just built on that. Probably about when I got out of dental school and I got involved with a group of real luminaries of model railroading, well, things just got out of hand. I mean, the hobby just turned into something else. So, yeah.
So model railroading was one of your first loves?
Yeah, I think I've always liked railroading. I've never had the opportunity to ever have a layout. So my involvement when I got back was really, I got involved with the guy who was building a big O-scale layout. So basically I was doing rolling stock track work. I got kind of appointed to be the painter and the photographer. But mostly, hey, if we need it painted, we need it finishing, let's give it to Doc. He can do that, So that was kind of my role. We had a very talented artist who'd illustrated a lot of railroad books, and then we had the fellow that mentored me in model machine work. He'd built models for the Smithsonian. We had a railroad watchmaker. I mean, those were the guys that got certified by the railroad, and we only had 2 in town. So we had some real people that had names in the hobby.
Yeah.
And they knew everybody else in the hobby. So it was, I mean, it just steamrolled, learning for me, what it was when I was still had 1 foot in plastic modeling too. And then I got involved in, the other thing that was for me when I got out of dental school was another huge interest for me is F1 racing.
Right.
And,
back when it was entertaining.
What's that?
Back when it was entertaining.
Well, I can remember where I was when John Kennedy was assassinated.
Right.
I can also remember just as clearly as when I heard on the radio that Jim Clark was killed in Germany.
Yes.
And that was pretty much, I could keep involved in F1 for a little bit after that and followed some of Jackie Stewart's career and whatnot. But it just, people were dying. And
yeah.
When I was in dental school, I started picking up, I was in San Francisco, I started picking up the Chronicle, and here I see this name Lauda cropping up. Lauda wins this, Lauda wins that. I'm going, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And I kind of, as soon as I got out of school, then an article popped up in Road and Track, and it showed one of these Tamiya models, the Ferrari 312. I had seen a Tamiya model back when I was like 12 or something. I don't know. It was the 12th scale Lotus 49. And I remember seeing it. And even as a kid, I thought, this is kind of like a toy. It's okay. But you could see the motor, where the motor went and everything in it. And I thought, well, it's big, but it's just a big version of the same thing I'm building in 24th scale. Well, this thing that was in Road and Track was a whole nother deal. And so, I built that, and then I don't know if I started building a few of them, and they wound up in it's a kind of a cheesy model magazine at the time. It was called Scale Modeler.
Yep.
And then I decided, I wanted to get closer to the action. So I tried to finagle some press passes. Well, that got me part way, but it didn't get me where I wanted to be. So I wanted to be in the pits. So I don't remember exactly how I got involved. I think I wrote a letter to Tamiya, and I said, here's what I've done, showed them my stuff in the Scale Modeler. And I get a very nice letter back. And the next thing you know, we've developed a bit of a relationship, and they said, you're now listed as a friend of the company, and we're going to be sending you to the Grand Prix. You're going to go see Ken Terrell. He's going to give you your credentials. So I'd go see Ken Terrell. He'd give me an FIA card. Wow. It was like the letters of transit. I mean, the water's parted.
Yeah.
If I came in, my wife with me, come on in. And the deal is you're going to meet with a couple of teams. So if it was Renault that year or it was Ferrari, you'd talk to the people, and the engineers would actually talk to you. I can remember the Renault engineer, jumping over stuff to answer my question about, well, what's this, in the car. And so it was a pretty phenomenal few years, with that experience.
Oh, for sure.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Things just my whole deal was to, I'd see things that the model railroaders were doing, and the plastic guys didn't really have much of a clue. And it went the other way. Stuff that the plastic guys were doing, the model railroad guys would be ignorant of it.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to blend everything together. I didn't have any, my whole involvement with the magazines was really just to spread those two things out and, keep everybody, just kind of up the standard of things, and so, like photo etch. Well, that was we just did that in model railroading. You just did your own photo etch.
Yeah,
it was no big deal. We had guys that made their own airbrushes because they weren't going to go buy one. It was just what you do. And that stuff was like, oh my God, so foreign to plastic guys. So, it was, that's all I was trying to do. And so that's just where I've been for kind of all this time, doing that.
And at some point, obviously, you decided to sort of start doing your own videoing, which is how we've all sort of come to know you.
Well, what happened there is I'd written years for Fine Scale.
That's right.
You'd write an article, you'd send it in, they'd edit it. You only had maybe 5 pages at the most. So stuff that I'd written gets chucked out. Other stuff gets rewritten sometimes. I had an article on photo etch way back in, I don't know, trying to think when I started with Fine Scale. First, it was 1982. I remember I had an article on photo etching, and they changed some stuff around because they didn't understand what I was doing. I had a call from a guy up in Reno, Nevada, and he did photo etch for a living. Mm-hmm. He says, "What are you doing here? This is toxic. I said, I didn't write that. He goes, "Well, it's in your article." And I had to go look, and I said, "I did not write that." And so you lose control when you hand it over.
Yeah.
I think Bob Hayden that was when he left, that's when Fine Scale changed. He was really the spirit of Fine Scale in the beginning. And when people say it's just not the same, it's when he left. That's when it happened. He called me when he was starting the magazine. I didn't know him. I didn't even know what they were doing. But when he said Kallenbach, that's model railroading gold. Mm. So that'd be great. I'd be happy to be involved with that. And I know he was a little disappointed because he wanted me in the charter issue, and I'm kind of I'll get it done when I get it done.
Don't rush me.
And that's the way things went with him. But he was just happy to take people from everywhere and use more exotic techniques. Like I had one approach. Bob Steinbrunn had his. Steve Zalaga had his approach. He did a lot of photo etch. Steinbrunn did a lot of modifying kits in a way that would maybe be a little bit more accessible to the normal plastic guy. He had ship guys on there that were doing more elaborate things. And that's what kept it kind of like a standard above just the usual, let's just putty and paint things and fill seams. And I remember I was having lunch with him one time in Atlanta in an IPMS Nationals. I don't know what year it was. And he was hitting me up for an article. I said, "Well, Bob, it's already been done before." He said, "But what's new, what's old to you might be new to somebody else."
Yeah.
But I couldn't really subscribe to that because I'm going, there's too much other stuff. We could find something kind of new to show or a slightly different approach. So I started a web page probably a little bit before I got back into doing, I had this Hawker Tempest that had been sitting around for years, and I'd kind of worked my way out of, life happens, and I wasn't doing that much modeling. Mm-hmm. And I decided, they're bringing the Nationals down to L.A., I want to at least take something. And at that point, I didn't care what the result of it was. I just wanted to get this. I thought, let's get this done. And what always held me up about that airplane is when I slammed up against the landing gear. I understood what it was. I could understand the mechanics of it, but it was so complicated. I don't know. Sidney Cam was like some kind of maniacal person. I think he just decided, we're going to create stuff that model makers can never make. So he makes this sliding parallelogram, and it's got an upper and lower link, and it's a little bit more diagrammatical in the Sea Fury, but in the Tempest, it's got more elegance. It's a little swoopier. And it was just a matter of, okay, jig it up, and these points have to line up. Now we're going to carve this from here to here, and it was just one piece fitting into another, and eventually I got it done, and it was just like, so once I got over the gear, then I thought, okay, I'm cool. Slam, I run into the fuel tanks. No, we just can't have a normal drop tank. We got to have a clear fairing around the connection. How am I going to blend this clear fairing? So that's when I had to come up with that casting technique of casting the bottom half of the tank, putting it back in the mold, then casting clear epoxy on top of it. I had to put all the fittings in so they would get captured in the clear stuff. And I never did figure out I was kind of up against a deadline, but I wanted to put those reinforcing bands that go around it. And they had to be on the inside. And I thought later, that's probably the way to do it. I thought of a way I could have probably done it, but, me and deadlines, that was the problem with fine scale.
Yeah.
I still suffer from PTSD from that. Bob Hayden called me and he said, you're laughing again.
Yeah.
So, this wasn't funny. He said, he calls me up and he goes, hey, listen, I heard you told me we were working on this P-51B, right? I said, well, yeah. It's really in parts, because what I was used to do was I had one major project that I was working on for me, and then I would build something for the ceiling, and then I might have a railroad project to paint for the guys on the layout. And it just kind of all like I went from one thing to the next, but at my own time. Mm-hmm. And when a magazine article got done, I sent it in.
Yeah.
So there was no deadline. Well, he calls me with this and he says, we're going to do this 50th anniversary of D-Day, or 75th or whatever. I said, well, how long do I have? He goes, 3 months. I went, Bob, I got a fuselage and I figured out how to do the canopy, and I got photo etch done for the cockpit and the wheels, and that's it. Well, do you guys know the movie Sergeant York?
Yes,
yes. Very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alvin's going to want to get a little piece of bottom land, right? He's going to work day and night so that he can save up enough money for his bottom land. So every night he comes dragging in, puts a few coins in the pot, and goes right back out, after 2 hours of sleep. I spent 3 months doing that.
Oh, good.
I don't think I had more than 3 hours of sleep a night, and I'm pretty sure I hurt myself physically by the end of it. And I got it done. But, when I was in model railroading, there were 3 guys that were very good friends. One of them was the fellow that taught me miniature machine work. The 2 guys had a company called CalScale, which if you were an old model railroader, there was no way you couldn't know that name. Their ad was in every model railroader. They were the people who were the premier supplier of all the details that went on locomotives or went under railroad cars, all these brass castings. The stuff would get shipped over to Japan, put on the PFM and the other manufacturers of brass locomotives, and shipped back here. In fact, the Japanese came out and looked at their plant and their operation, said, no, we'll just buy the stuff from you. Because they had, I don't know how many employees at their heyday, but the way they worked it out was like, this part of it, and this part of it, and nobody really knew all of it. And they had a way of doing these wonderful brass castings that were very clean. So anyway, the foundryman, Harry Parker, his thing was he told me, because I had an idea for something. I said, Harry, what I'd like to maybe do this. And he goes, Doc, don't ever, if you want to ruin your hobby, just turn it into a profession. And I knew what he said, but I just fell off the wagon. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And so it wasn't really a full-time profession, but it was enough to stick the deadline in. And after that, it was, meh. So somebody approaches me with a project like that, and I just want to go the other way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so backing up to I had the web page, I did the Tempest, I got my stuff up going. I couldn't find someone. I knew a friend of mine, his son did web stuff, but trying to get someone else to do it's sometimes it doesn't work out real well. So I just decided I'll just start learning how to do HTML and CSS. And so I figured it out, started my own web page, created that. And then I realized that if I showed it in motion, it was worth a lot more than photographs.
Yeah.
So then I made this first video, which I don't know if anybody remembers it. It was called The Box. And it was my stupid, sarcastic bent And one thing that was kind of agonizing on me was the IPMS out of the box thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed so insane, the way it's framed, that a box could win. If the box was perfect, it could win.
Yeah, under the rules, yes.
Yeah, so I did this video in a very serious kind of Bob and Ray way, where I had this box, and I showed him reviewing the box kit. And then I had my son, who does a fairly reasonable English accent, because that adds class. Right?
Yes.
So he narrated it, and a friend of mine who said, nobody's going to watch this. Well, I put it up in the afternoon, and by the evening it had 3,000 views.
Wow.
He goes, who the hell is watching that?
You'd be surprised.
And so after that, I started, that stayed up for a while, but then I had to take it down. It's really not.
So what year was that then, Paul?
No. Yeah. It was before I started the channel, so it could have been, I don't know, 2014. I don't know when I started the channel.
Yeah.
But so then I decided to get a little bit more serious, and I had to investigate some hardware and how to film things better. And then that got to be a rat hole going down. I mean, I'm already a sound guy. I always have been.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine who does a lot of, he's a professional photographer, but he also does a fair amount of videography. He said, you know what, the video is going to be no problem. It's the sound. It's the audio that you have to worry about. And that's true. You can have kind of a not so great video, but if you have crummy sound, everybody just goes, that's a crummy video.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had to kind of sort my way through all that and kind of develop my own style, which is still, a work in progress. It's certainly not the voice. I mean, I don't have the voice. I would love to have that, but I don't. And, but
your voice is so iconic though now. I mean, I could play a soundbite of your voice and have a competition, and everybody would get who it is straight away.
Well, they get who it is, but I mean, really, it's not the golden voice. And so, when I'm doing my after hours, my postscript things, I would like to have a more FM radio sound.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen.
Dial the bass up on your mixer, and that'll help you.
Well, I got to get in close for proximity effect. It's FM 102.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so anyway, but what I'm doing right now is I've had a go. I was asked to do a book, and that just got me going the other way. So I thought, okay, but I kind of, a book on scratch building and my techniques. Well, there's another book out there, and half of the book seems like I'm reading my techniques that I showed 30 years ago in fine scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, what am I going to do? Regurgitate the same stuff here? And the guy who wrote it showed the book Scratch Built, and I'm the guy in Scratch. I mean, I was in there too, along with the other. Although you didn't credit, the three big guys that were in there, Alcorn and Cook, and George Lee.
Oh, right.
Oh, legendary George Lee. Yes.
Right. So. They're the featured guys in the magazine. I mean, in that book, the first Scratch Built book. And then Alcorn wanted me to be in the second one, but I'd already had the PSD from the and it's like, I don't want to write any more stuff. Don't push me. And he kept calling me. I finally just kind of let it slide. But the thing is about doing a book about techniques and stuff, if there was a product in the book, by the time it gets published, it may not even be available anymore. The links won't work, and I thought if I'm going to do things that are going to have techniques in them, I've got to be more fluid. I have to be able to edit it. I have to be able to keep it up to date.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, and I'm also looking at retirement. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'd like to clean up the website. It's like what we have in the United States called the Winchester Mystery House. I mean, it just goes everywhere. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, staircases and doors that lead to nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah, there's rooms and hallways that go nowhere. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I built one thing and then I built another thing, and it just, so get things a little bit more unified, make a little bit more sense, get rid of some of the stuff that's not topical. And now here's the thing. This is the deal. I have a different approach, and I think about this in a completely different way. I'm kind of like over a lot of the technique stuff. I've already been there, done that. Mm-hmm. I listen to the podcasts and stuff, and I hear things, and I'm just kind of going, "Oh, you guys just figured that one out." Huh? Or even like what I'm hearing now, and some people are getting burnt out, and I'm going, "Yeah, because you've got obligations doing this and this and this, and you'd rather be at the bench." Mm-hmm. I've been there. I've done that. So I can see how it looks fun in the beginning, but it catches up with you.
Yep.
So that's okay. But, and this is probably way out there, but what I'm thinking of, where I'm at right now is looking at what's underneath all this. And to a lot of people, the way the debate goes is, especially like around 3D printing, they'll say, well, it's just a tool. We all, the goal is to finish the model.
Yeah.
And over the years, what I've come to find out is, well, you know what? I'm not going to buy that. That's not my starting point. I don't care if the model ever gets finished. I'm going back to the start. What's important for me is that every day when I sit down, or every evening, or every couple of hours, that becomes my connection with creativity. And if I get up from the bench, clean things up, and I'm satisfied, it's a success.
Yes.
My success happens every time I sit down. And if I get to the end of the model, it's going to be a success. And it may not be in what I envisioned in the beginning, but it will be right, because every one of those elements makes it right. It's a collection of the time. It's not a collection of some technical exercise.
The hobby isn't about having the finished product. It's the journey that is the actual hobby.
It's actually, sometimes the journey sounds a little trite in a way for me, because and now we're going to get out into the metaphysical world. Mm-hmm. There's an energy of creation. You tell me why human beings create things. Like, a beaver may create a little house to live in, but he doesn't jazz it up. No. He doesn't make it look good. Humans, for some reason, want to create art, whatever it is. For me, years ago, it was music. So, but what's the point of it? It doesn't serve any of your basic Maslow's pyramid at the base of it. It doesn't serve any purpose.
Yeah.
But we want to do it. So when I sit down, that's my connection to creativity. It's almost like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's mystical or whatever, but there's an energy in that. And so if that doesn't strike a note for you, that's okay, but it does for me. And what I want to do is, what I'm doing is kind of subtly using that as my basis for doing what I'm doing on the website now, on the new one and the new videos, focusing on the quality of the time that you're spending. And in fact, that's the byline on the new webpage is time. Well, that's my coffee cup for my I'm going to ask you something in a minute about coffee. But so anyway, and the other thing that happened was, so I decided, what I'm going to do is create this site, and a lot of this stuff is going to be an homage to the people that I learned from.
Yes.
The people that I revere. We could have a conversation without having any words. We just understood that we understood the energy in that tool. We understood the energy of creating something with our hands. So if somebody says that 3D thing is the same, I say, well, no, it's not. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's a nuance that you get with wisdom and age. I mean, I'm just older, and that's the way it is. Maybe 20 years ago, I wouldn't have seen that. But there are those subtle differences that they are differences, and there's an energy. It's like, if I have to sit in front of the computer all day, I'd get out of here. I want to go do something.
Yeah.
I want to actually handle something, create something, do it that way. And both will get you to the same place. But my personal satisfaction comes with finishing the day out. You know, when I think back of all my projects, I can remember the days that were like stellar, that afternoon, everything just worked and you didn't even think about it. You know, it was like the same kind of thing used to happen when you get to a certain level in music. You've mastered the technical. And the important thing is the engagement with the audience and the emotional stuff that happens, and the rest of it just flows. You're not even, you know, I have a thing here from Bill Evans, and that's what he talks about, starting simple, finding the essence and building on that. If you start with an advanced technique, you're never going to be able to build from it.
No, that's right.
So what I'm looking for in like this latest project with that racing plane is to look at the essence of the subject and work with that and not get hung up on necessarily every little detail. If my thing is, the ultimate goal is to create something that I would have a conversation with my friends about over a dram, you know. We're going to, you know, so which brings me to this other point about this whole thing. And the other word that's cropped up into my field now is called integrity. And the roundabout way that I got into integrity was, I'm not big into drinking. I grew up around alcohol, not in a bad way, but my dad was a collector. And he used to always say, listen, you want to drink? We got all kinds of alcohol here. Just don't go out and get drunk and get hurt. And it was always there. So it was like, who cares? I don't care. It was never a mystery to me. I did have, out of the stuff that I sampled and over the years, I do like Scotch whiskey. The taste of Scotch, I like. I don't like bourbon, gives me a headache, anything else. And I probably a bottle will last me 3 years or something. It's not like I'm drinking a lot of Scotch. But there's a guy that does YouTube who I'm totally enamored with, and his name is Ralphie. And Ralphie reviews Scotch. And he comes from what he calls his little bothy in some place mystical in the Irish. It's the Isle of Man.
Right.
He's on the Isle of Man, and he has a little bothy. And he just focused basically on fine spirits, but mostly Scotch whiskey. That's what he knows. And he has a thing called, his whole focus is integrity malts, and integrity in the way it's presented. Integrity the way it's marketed, that what's in the bottle is honestly what's in the bottle, that the Scotch is treated honestly. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I think about integrity of what I want to do with like what I've been doing with the videos. I don't want to waste somebody's time. I don't want to make clickbait. And the time that I spend working, I want to make those honest hours. I want those to be my creative time and have integrity with my time. So when I make stuff for YouTube, there's compromises, and I don't like it. And so part of this new venture is I'm going to put the stuff on Vimeo, and then I want to start a Patreon channel and make it really affordable. But I want to sort the chaff out. I want the people that are kind of interested in this and understand what I'm doing with that sort of energy. So here's the interesting thing. I thought, and what I'm doing is I got a couple more years I'm going to work, and I can stake myself to the cost of the Vimeo, because you have to pay for the hosting.
Yep.
I'll stake myself to that, whatever it costs. And then, of course, my Adobe Suite and stuff, I use that for doing all my production. So that's about another $600 a year. And so there is some production costs. But I thought, while I'm working still for the next couple of years, I can fund that. And I just want to see where it goes. So I locked up my Patreon name. And when I did that video for you guys when I put it back up about the sprue goo.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I put a little blurb in there that said what I was doing. And then the flurry of comments started.
Oh, no. The peanut gallery.
Most of them were like, "Oh, man, we're glad to see you back. We thought something happened to you."
Yeah.
But then there were those few people who were going, "Oh, another guy hiding behind a paywall." And then some guy got so upset that he wrote me a 4-paragraph thing. I just didn't even read. I never read those things anyway.
No.
I said, that's it. Turn the comments off. And the interesting thing is about 2 or 3 days later, I get an email from he's a subscriber. I don't know him personally. And he was kind of wishing me that I hope you're doing well. And it was just a really nice little short letter. And I wrote him back exactly what I was doing. 2 days later, I get a message from Patreon that somebody contributed $2 to my Patreon channel. I didn't even have anything up. I have nothing up there for how much. So I wrote this fellow back, and I thought about it for a few days. How do I want to word it? And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to take it on me. What I said was, I hope I haven't misled you. And because that's the way I felt about it, but I'm not the most eloquent person. So I said, but here's what's happening. I said, this is what I'm going to be doing. There's not going to be any video content up on there right now. I'm kind of rewriting the web page, and it'll be a while. And I just hope that you weren't expecting that, content was going to be. He wrote me back, and he said, I knew that. He said, I knew this was going to be a work in progress. I just wanted to support you, and only needed that one message from the universe to tell me that this. And if it's just enough to fund everything, I'm happy. I can keep putting out information and kind of, it's like I have a government retirement or something. So I have to kind of watch what's going to happen. And if things get out of hand with production costs or something. And what I kind of want to do is, in that sort of situation, if I was going to review a kit, I want to get maybe like 2 kits. Review one and send one to one of the Patreon subscribers, and you build it. Give me your opinion on it.
Yeah.
Engage some people and do that sort of thing, but all with a similar energy. And I figure it sorts out the people that are sort of feeling entitled that they should have stuff for free.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes you get people that think they're like a movie critic and they want to write in about I don't like the way you did that, or correct my pronunciation or something.
Oh, I get that all the time. Don't worry about that, Paul.
It's not solder, it's solder.
Well, actually, it's funny you should mention that, because that is by far one of my favourite videos you've done on soldering, or what we call soldering here in Australia. But it's a short video. And it's a quick, this is the way it's done, old school style, and it just made complete sense to me. And it encapsulated everything that a modelling video should be in my mind.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, I script these things out. I try to get rid of this stuff. I don't want to be somebody who's sitting there just banging on, stumbling around, reaching for stuff. Set it up, get it done. I don't want people to have to waste their time. And part of what I want, here's the other thing I want to do. I got to figure out a way to do it on this new channel. Because what I like about the podcast is you can put them on. You don't have to watch them.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah.
It puts you in a space while you're working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I did a little 5-minute thing, or like, well, you don't really have to watch my after hours type stuff, but keep enough of that on there so you can access whatever little philosophical thing or whatever I'm doing, and not have to watch it. So it doesn't take you away. You can you can get some benefit from this without having to just sit in front of the computer screen and watch it.
I've got an off-the-wall question. It seems to me, and I think it's just anecdotal or whatever, but there seems to be a lot of dentists out there who become really good modelers. So, and you said you went to dentistry school and all that. Is it because you were building models, it gave you a bent to go to dentistry school, or is it because of your dentistry school skills and your fine motor skills that you sort of have to hone because you're working in a small space that then leads you on to be a good modeler? What is it? Does that make sense?
I think I don't. In my whole dental school class, I don't think there was anybody else that did any model making.
Oh, okay.
So that it's usually the other way around. You might have some artistic interest or something. Mm-hmm. Like one of my best mates in dental school was an extremely good. I mean, he was excellent at sculpting, but I don't think he did that as a hobby. He just had that knack. I think it's probably more you get a little bit of that mindset when you're doing dentistry. I mean, okay. And for me, I started working in the dental lab when I was 12 years old because my dad was a dental tech, and he didn't believe on you sitting on your ass in the summertime.
Yeah.
Get yourself down to the dental lab and you're going to work. So even when I was in college and I'm working clubs, I'm teaching music, and in the summertime, I'm still filling in the lab when a guy goes on vacation. So I was always around it, and I didn't realize till much later, as being a dentist for 20 years, that it finally, it fit. You really are blessed that you found something that gave you your artistic outlet, but also had a huge human function. Because I do prosthetics, so I spend my all day sculpting. I'm sculpting tissue, and that's probably the most artistic and subjective thing that we do in dentistry. So much of it now even can be done digitally. You can scan it. The program will create the crown that matches the other side that fits the opposing tooth. But when you do prosthetics, well, a lot of guys just wet their knickers. They can't figure out. All the teeth are gone.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I'm just going, well, if you're that uncomfortable with it, just back away, go do something else. You got plenty of work to do, and send them over to me. So there's a lot of getting to know the person, a lot of Sherlock Holmes, looking at what you have here and figuring out what was destroyed in the mouth, what's been destroyed over the years, and have them bring in pictures, recreating that. And and the other thing you learn how to do is work with curves, because there's nothing straight.
No, that's right.
And it's so that world in curves and sculpting just becomes sort of like
second nature.
Yeah. And so for me, it was kind of like just a blending. I just like doing that stuff. And I know I had one lab guy tell me, was much later, he had retired and he needed a set of dentures, and he traveled from somewhere else, and he stayed and had me do it. He said, "I'll come in and I'll do that." No, John, just I'll get it. And then he called me back about 2 weeks later, and he goes, "I don't know what you did here. I've never had a set of dentures fit like this." And he goes, "You always were clever." And because I'd worked with him for years in the dental lab, he was one of the guys in the lab. And it's funny that he recognized that. But if you like what you do and you think about it and you figure out a better way to do it, then that's kind of what happens. So, yeah, it's kind of my bent.
So do you have a favorite genre of models that you really enjoy building, or you find you keep going back to? Is it armor, ships, aircraft? Is there a particular...
Yeah, that's part of my integrity thing. I'm going to take a shift back to... I'm going to evaluate more of what my subject matter is. There's some things that I just don't want to have a connection to, and I don't want to waste my energy in. I'm going to do this racing plane. One of the one of the things that is on my absolute to-do list, which is borderline, but I do really want to do the USS Enterprise CV6. I built the hull, but I kind of started going up and I was trying to figure out how I was going to do the flight deck in a satisfactory way for me, because any sort of scribing was overscaled. It really couldn't be engraved.
What scale are you building then?
350th.
Oh, the best scale.
Even at but at 350th, I found that I had a friend of mine, well, he still does large-scale digital imaging, but I had him run me out a chunk of deck, and I had the line spec'd in different ways, and there was a line thickness that looked really good. Mm-hmm. But, and again, this is part of the new way of my new channel. Part of my thinking is, well, that's not going to be acceptable to everyone else. It's not engraved. It's printed. But it looks better than engraved and stained. It looked like you could stand back here and really just sort of see there was something on the deck, but you couldn't see the engraving. You couldn't see the wood, individually. I see that with, people say, well, it's over-weathered. I wouldn't say it's over-weathered. I would say it's out of scale. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that would probably sit there with a pair of calipers and measure the chip. And you know what people would say was, well, golly, you can't see it if you do it at that. And I'm going, okay. So let's just back that tape up a little bit. You don't like rivets. You go, oh, they put too many rivets. And the way the story went with Revell, I think it was Revell or Monogram, it's one of the pattern makers decided that you just should have these rivets on the model because it added interest. And there was a debate within the company whether we should have rivets on there or we shouldn't have rivets. And nowadays people would say, well, that's just so out of scale. But why? Because he thought it made it look more interesting. Well, you put these gigantic gargantuan panel lines, and then you put wash inside of them. And you say that looks so cool. And it does. It looks artistic, but it isn't real. No. So don't go on about how these rivets are oversized when you're doing that. I mean, it's all an artistic. You like this, all right? So I know if I did, I think I may have mentioned it to, in a conversation with, I don't remember who it was. And they said, but you're not going to be able to see the surface change. And I went, yeah, but I don't know if I don't think you'd see that anyway at that distance. But there was the part of me that said, it's not going to be acceptable to this group. And where I'm at with the way I'm thinking now is I don't care. I like it. And this fits the model of my time that I'm happy with it. And I don't care about being judged, especially in a subjective thing like art. I'm not going to compete in a subjective where it's a subjective activity and we're going to have judging. It doesn't work for me because that's just your opinion. You like it, I don't like it.
And that's the whole thing about modeling. A lot of people sort of miss the ball. It's there to be enjoyed by whoever's building it to their level of enjoyment. So if they're building to go and submit their kits in national model shows and international model shows, and they're building that stand, that's fine. But there's people out there who just enjoy slapping the kit together and don't even paint it, and they get enjoyment out of it, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong in this hobby. There really isn't. The only right or wrong comes into it is when you have people talking down to other people saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing it this way, you should be doing it that way. There is no real right or wrong at the end of the day when you really think about it, because it comes down to what you're enjoying to do. Yes, there are different ways of approaching it, and everybody should be free to explore those different avenues to their heart's content. But when it comes down to sort of saying, oh, you're doing it the wrong way or you're not doing it the correct way, it's not it. That's not what the hobby is. The hobby is about enjoying the process.
Yeah, I mean, if that's where you get to that, oh, I'm getting burnt out, or you spent 2 years building this magnum opus and then you can't build anything for 3 more years. All you could do is focus on it had to be this way at the end. when I see somebody that says it has to be my way or the highway, you can't belong to my club if you don't put every detail in there.
Gatekeepers.
Or I hear these other people go on about, well, if you're not weathering it, well, I guess if you like die cast. And I'm going, you know what? I got this when I was working and doing race cars. You try to build something clean that looks real.
It is
and these guys
very
wet their
hard.
pants.
Yeah.
No, they go, how can you do that?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. It's hard to do. But if you take a picture of the real thing that's been restored and it's clean, you know it's real, but it's clean. Now, you try to simulate that. If I slap dirt on it, and I can probably fool people better. And I've had artists that I know, and they weren't familiar with modeling, and they'd go to an art, model show. And universally, they'd come back, and their focus was the dirt that was on the models. They were weathered. So when you weather something, that starts to become the focal point. And for me, it's the machine. So it's partly a choice for me that's what I want the viewer to focus on. If I was building a railroad or a railroad model, obviously it looks stupid if it was running around looking like Lionel trains.
Yeah.
But this, I'm really sort of wanting people to focus on the function of the machine, and I don't need the dirt on it. I mean, it's just like sacrilege to a beautiful machine to have it filthy, and I don't know if I'd be proud of that. So, and when we're scratch building, you wondered the other day, I heard you on your show wondering why people that build sailing ships don't weather them.
Yeah.
But I was partly thinking of, well, that's the ship shape thing, right?
Yes, it is.
The Navy wants your ships clean. But the other thing is, I'm going to build a square rig ship. I want to talk about how the square rigging works. I want to, most people, especially nowadays, they're going to wonder, if the sail's facing this way, do you always have to sail with the wind? How do you make the ship? How do you keep going this way when the wind's blowing this way? And that's what all that rigging does. And the different rigging is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's to me where I see people who build waterline ships. You're only telling half the story because you're hiding half of the shape. And it's the shape that I find pleasing to my eye. And that's why I build, the full hull ships when I build them.
Well, you know what was interesting? When I think about that, it reminds me, back when I was in dental school in San Francisco, well, at that time, English pubs were the craze. Everybody had to have an English pub motif. Just go to the restaurant and it was called Ben Johnson's. You go to another restaurant, it was called Victoria Station. You go to a bar and it would have the etched mirrors over it, right? And there were these half-hull models because, we're down at the waterfront bar.
Yep.
So there'd be these half-hull models. Well, the whole hull is there, but just, half of it.
Sure.
I couldn't figure out what's the point? Where's the rest of the ship? And over the years, when I started building solid hulls, I don't care if I build the rest of the ship. It's so beautiful to understand how the lines in naval architecture contribute to the function of that hull. That's satisfaction I could create. That's just so beautiful. So now I can see the point of it. But then again, I'm young. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You learn the subtleties later, and you learn to watch for those. You kind of grow with that.
Yeah. You go to any yacht club and there'll be a whole heap of those half wooden hulls along the walls showing the form of the different yachts. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, hull form, that's where it's at. Yeah. I mean, really. So
moving forward, where you've got you've changed direction with your channel, as you said. Where can people now sort of find that? Where do they go to find Paul Budzik in his latest iteration of his videos?
Well, it's going to be a scale model workshop on Patreon.
Right.
But there's nothing there yet. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to start with that. There's going to got to be some kind of trailer or something. But initially, I kind of want to get into that layered super solution because I'd started working up a bunch of stuff about it, and I was going to do it one way. That didn't seem to work, and then I decided to do it this other way and built and did the clay forms for it, and I don't like that. And now I'm going back to where I think I want to do it out of really thin plywood out of the fuselage. Initially, I wanted to build it up like it actually was, but I was going to use paper instead of cloth.
Oh, wow.
But it just doesn't scale out right. You can't make the paper lay right. At least I couldn't. And the wing is so thin on that airplane. There's a reason it's called a speed wing. It has about 0 airfoil. I mean, there's no the profile is virtually like straight. So that's going to have to be a piece of, like ply or something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I worked out was I could run what looked pretty good now is I ran cord over the wing, like I forgot what thickness fishing line, and then burnished really thin copper foil over it. And it laid in there pretty nice. I don't like doing what Alcorn did, and I think it was Bob Lowry or somebody, where they score the the styrene sheet to cause it to distort. And then they're putting a little bits of plastic in there to keep it from flattening out, and then contact cementing it to wood. My luck with that is that it starts to bubble up after a while, or the contact cement will eat through the styrene. So I'd rather do something that's a little bit more permanent that I can count on, that I know is not going to. Oh, and that brings up sprue goo. I hate sprue goo, and I'm going to tell you an anecdote about that.
Please do.
I'm all over the map, so you have to watch it. You have to keep me on track. So I built this P-47. It was on the cover of Fine Scale. The only show I ever took it to was a San Jose show, which was a big California show. And it won, I don't know what, it won a bunch of stuff. And then it got put away. And it probably sat for about 1.5 years. And I built this, the Boeing 314 Clipper, and that was kind of that was my goal, was to take that to Seattle for the Nationals when that happened. And I took the P-47 along with me because I figured, well, it's only been shown in this regional contest. So I just took it along to put something else on the table. And I saw what else was on the table, and it was blowing it away. Well, I was a little peeved that it got a second or something. And I didn't, and I was a little bit cranky about it, and I was kind of mumbling to myself. And there's another modeler I know named Ed Bowles. And I don't remember if he did this before I started grumbling or whatever, but he came over and he says this. He goes, "You built that a while ago, didn't you?" And I went, "Yeah, like why?" And he goes, "I just wanted to know. When I got it home and I'm unpacking stuff and I'm in good light from a window, I could see the wrinkles all along the trailing edge where the solvent cement over a period of 1 year had finally caused that trailing edge to wrinkle a little bit."
Wow.
It wasn't filled from the outside anywhere. It was the stuff from inside the wing had worked its way through the styrene and I felt like such an idiot that I didn't see that. To this day, it's one of those things that you wish you could rewind the clock back and have never shown that model.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that. And so that has made me I'm an evangelist against too much solvent cement. So when I see people put it on, glue it, squish it, I'm going, you're just asking for trouble. You don't know what's going to happen in 1 year. People go, "Oh, I've had it for you." Haven't. You probably really haven't looked at it, but you may see the so-called ghost seams. They're not really ghosts. It's just what solvent does. It's a thermoplastic. It's not like acrylic that's a powder in a solvent that when they get hard, they're actually, when it sits, it actually hardens. Styrene's really a thermoplastic. So the solvent softens it up and it gets harder, but it's always a little bit gooey. So I'm total advocate for cyanoacrylates for filling, and I do not like. So when I put that up there, it was like, this is 180 degrees different than what you guys were talking about.
Sure. So people still going to be able to find your videos on YouTube?
Well, I'm still going to probably put a thing or two up on YouTube, but most of the time it's going to be on the Patreon channel.
Right, sure.
And I haven't figured out how I want to do it, whether I'm starting to think that I may have just 2 tiers, one that can access the entire library and a lesser tier if you just want to get like 3 months worth, and because some people would just go, well, I'm just going to, subscribe for, $2 and I'll get to see everything for a month and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to differentiate that a little bit. I'm not sure, but I don't want to, in the overall, when I thought about it was, I certainly don't want to exceed the cost of a magazine subscription for a year of it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a magazine. I'm not going to put up that kind of, people are going to have to put up with my erratic schedule. I may throw up 3 and I may wait a while before I put up some more. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It just, and I'm just hoping that the people that do subscribe are really doing it on the basis of, I'm just going to support this effort because I understand the spirit of what's being put up. Not that I demand this content, I demand this. I want to kind of avoid that because that's just going to put another stressor, and then I'm not going to.
Oh, yeah.
It's like making content just to make content, and I can't.
Sure.
That's not what I want.
No,
I don't want to waste any.
Yeah, so, then it becomes a chore.
Yeah. So, Paul, if somebody
wants,
waste
people's time.
Yeah.
To do that.
Totally agree.
So, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they find you on the interweb?
Well, if you go on any of my web pages, there's a contact thing. It's just I have an email that you can write to, and I just ask that you put your entire name in the. Don't give me some moniker of some kind I don't write to anonymous people, and I don't write to people. If you're not going to share your name, then, if you're not going to at least share your name with me, then.
Yeah.
And
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing about that. And again, this is sort of sorting the chaff from the whatever. And I would take quite a while to reply in in something that actually made some sense, not just be a trite response or, I probably 1% I ever get a thank you letter back. It's just like it goes out into the ether.
Yeah.
You don't even know if somebody got it. And I do not understand that. For me, if somebody shares something with me, a little bit of wisdom, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I can't buy that somebody wants to share something. So when they do, at least say thank you. Man, I don't understand that. It just blows me away. It's like, you owe me. I'm writing you. Just tell me. I subscribe. It didn't cost you anything. It was total nothing. You click the subscrib button.
Yeah, that's it.
We don't have a contract,
Indeed.
No, I fully agree with you there, Paul. It's just this day and age. People they want everything for free.
Yeah, and being involved in music before.
Oh God,
to me that's like not good. I don't mind. I'm paying for it because I was on the other end of it. I can understand.
Yes.
So just punch in Paul Budzik. For those who've never heard of Paul before, it's Budzik. Just punch that into Google and you'll certainly find him, or even into YouTube, and it'll take you to his link there. Paul, it's been wonderful having you on the show.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't mean to monopolize this. Do you guys have some questions that you want to ask?
Well, I think we've asked the questions that we needed. I had programmed to ask, and Ian's just happy sitting there listening to you.
Yeah, it's like it's a more personal for me. It's more today's just been a lot more personal, just sitting down there, just watching your videos all the time.
Yeah, I can ramble on because these nebulous thoughts, that's what they are. They gel sometimes.
Yep.
And then sometimes my wife's eyes just roll around. Hey, now listen, though. Before you guys split, I need to ask you a question.
Sure.
Now, coffee's a big deal for me. It's a big deal. It can either be a distraction in the morning or it can be an asset. If it's not just perfect, it's a distraction. So what's the deal with people down in either Kiwi land or Australia with coffee? I don't get it. We watch a lot of these shows on Acorn or BritBox or whatever. That's the only thing we ever watch. And a number of these shows are from Australia or New Zealand. The New Zealand ones, we got to have closed caption on because I swear.
Yeah, they
we
talk
watch
kind of funny.
Brokenwood and I can't get half of it. But Australian shows, they're better for me. But there's these running jokes on a number of those shows about bad coffee that they're drinking. And I'm going, you guys don't grow any coffee. So I can understand the Italians. I've traveled.
I think that's
Italy.
what it comes down to because of our vast Italian immigrants. And someone decided to open up a coffee shop and had their own little twist to it. And now it's just become this huge thing, especially around our area, around Melbourne, where you've just, it's nearly become an honour to have a job as a barista.
Really?
Yeah.
And these people take so much pride in making you the perfect cup of coffee.
Yep. And that's what's so hard when we travel. When we travel, it's really hard to get a good cup of coffee. And geez, I struggled when we were in Europe recently. Except when I was in Italy, I was getting perfect coffee then. But in the US, oh my God! I mean, you got these places, these big, coffee chains, and they've just ruined coffee over there.
No, I'm with you. To me, Starbucks says I can't drink it.
No,
it's like
no.
Well, didn't they try to put a Starbucks in Australia and it failed?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Well, with good reason. I don't know, but we accept a certain amount of mediocrity. But it's taken me some years to really figure out the ins and outs and how to control the flavor and get things. This year was I finally got things pretty well dialed in, and during the holidays we had some people over, a number of people stop by, and I'd make them coffee and say, wait a minute, before you put a bunch of junk in the coffee, just try it. Leave the cream there, here, try it. And they would say, what, how can this be? And here, okay, this ties it back to model making. This is one of those things that routinely they would say, well, what coffee are you using? And I'm going, it's not the coffee. It's how I brew it. Because I can take that. I mean, I'm sticking 5 different beans together to get what I want. Sure. I could take those beans and turn it into junk. But for me, it's like a manual blooming process, and it's a certain way that you do it that it's just like there's no bitterness left to it. And it actually, you can get a sweet note out of coffee that I never thought. I used to hear about that, and I thought, no, it can't be done. It can be done.
What's this sorcery?
Yeah. So I just wonder, what is this deal about?
It's just as Ian said, because we've been spoilt with all the large waves of immigrants from Italy and all that, and their love of coffee. And prior to the 1950s, we were a nation of tea drinkers more than coffee drinkers through the influences of the UK. But with the immigration waves that have come in, we've grown to love coffee, and coffee. There's you would be hard pressed to find anywhere in Melbourne where there's not a cafe on the corner that doesn't produce a good coffee. And we've all got our favourite little cafes that we go to, and we even cry when cafes are taken over by new owners because it's going to change slightly.
Yeah,
right.
And in fact, it happened to me around the corner. My local one got taken over, and I just can't go back there anymore because the coffee's changed. But I do a drip coffee here, and we have it in the morning for our breakfast.
Yep.
It's not bad, is it, Ian?
It's not too bad at all.
Yeah, it's
I quite enjoy. I've just had my second cup, so I'm doing all right.
My son used to be an absolute avid coffee. He would get down to the science of it and how much you have to fluff the coffee before you actually have the water going through it, and the science behind all that. He got really deep down in the rabbit hole. But I'm a little bit lazy. I just want to get up in the morning and put the drip coffee on and have it ready there for me. And sometimes I'll even get super lazy and have instant coffee.
Oh,
I couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, Mokona's not a bad blend. Mokona's pretty good when it comes to instant coffee if you're in a hurry. But
yeah, my wife describes it as it's a process. It takes a while to do it. But I was almost thinking of doing one of my lighter videos for the channel because of the nuance between having like maybe the proper ingredients versus how you use the ingredients. It would be the same thing for modeling.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I could give you the same tools.
Yeah.
I could give you the same paint, but it's your technique. So that's where the nuance comes in. You know, it's probably going to be the metaphysical modeler is probably what I you know?
Yeah, there used to be a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it had nothing to do with motorcycle maintenance whatsoever.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sayings. Well, it's a Zen thing. You know?
Yeah,
That's
sure.
right. It is.
Yeah. All right, Paul, I think we're hitting the end of our chat here. It's been awesome having you on.
Oh, it has.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And we can't wait to see how things progress for you in the future. So we wish you the best of luck for that.
And definitely keep in touch.
Thank you.
And
we'll
definitely,
see what,
and definitely keep in touch and let us know how your journey's going.
Yeah, no, I just knock it. Hopefully it'll, knock wood. It'll turn out to be successful.
No worries. Thanks for being on the show, mate, and we'll hear from you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's a fantastic interview with Paul, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Don't forget that there are a host of other wonderful podcasts out there for your listening pleasure. There's Models from Ukraine podcasts, Sprue Cutters Union, Just Making Conversation, Small Subjects, The Model Geeks, Micro Machines podcasts, Scale Model podcasts, Built Sideways, Plastic Posse podcast, and Plastic Model Mojo. To find a link to all those shows, simply go to modelpodcasts.com. And it's got links there for all the fantastic shows. And of course, if you want to send us an email, simply write to onthebench64@gmail.com. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. Simply type in On The Bench Podcast. And indeed, we've got our own page for all of our wonderful team and audience out there to go and have a bit of play around in. That is On Your Bench in Facebook. My name's Dave. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll be back next week with a slightly different, but we think interesting show. Until then, have a great time building.